The VanHorn mansion is located up in the Niagara region of New York State. It was built in 1823 by Judge James VanHorn. The mansion is historically significant, with being the first all-brick building and played a major part in local government. It was the site of the first town meeting for the town of Newfane, held on April the 6th, 1824. Judge James VanHorn came to the area around 1817 with his family and established industries including a grist mill and, in 1842, a wool mill. James VanHorn also served as one of the first judges in Niagara County and was the town of Newfane supervisor from 1829 to 1831, which made him a powerful man. But with power and wealth comes scandal and secrets. James VanHorn married Melinda Niles in 1836 and were expecting a child soon after. They had been married barely a year. The mansion was new then, its walls unscarred by time, its corridors alive with the hum of visiting townsfolk and the clatter of Judge VanHorn's boots. But as the year waned, so too did Melinda's light. The winter of 1837 came early to the shores of Lake Ontario. A cruel wind swept across the frozen orchards, whispering through the chimneys of the great VanHorn mansion, where Melinda VanHorn, the young bride of James VanHorn Jr., lay pale and fevered in her upstairs chamber. Melinda fell ill and died on January 1837, shortly after the birth of her child. Some said it was the childbirth that claimed her. Others whispered of an unseen sickness or a sorrow that took root in her heart and would not let go. The cause of her death is not clearly documented. Locals speculate about the mysterious causes surrounding Melinda's death, just 1 year after her marriage to James. She was buried on the VanHorn property in the Rose Garden, separate from other VanHorn family members. But in the 1950s, there were reports that the family graves on the property, except Melinda's, were moved to a family plot in a cemetery in Lockport, New York. But Melinda's remains, which adds to the mystery on what happened to Melinda back in 1837. The VanHorn Mansion. Built in 1823, its red brick walls have witnessed over 2 centuries of life, death, and mystery. But behind its grand staircases and elegant parlors lies something far darker. Shadows that move when no one's there, voices that whisper through empty rooms, and a presence that refuses to rest. Melissa, a long-time volunteer and historian of the mansion, she's experienced the hauntings firsthand. From ghostly children seen on the 2nd floor to the chilling sound of a woman's voice echoing through the halls, Melissa has heard, felt, and seen what few dare to believe. On quiet nights, when the moonlight spills across the old red bricks of the VanHorn mansion, the house seems to breathe with a life of its own. Melissa says the air shifts just before the haunting begins. First, a faint sound of voices echoing from the 2nd floor. Those who've dared to investigate tell of translucent figures of appearing in a doorway near the top of the grand staircase, their faces pale and distant, their eyes glimmering with the sadness of time once spent in the mansion. The most terrifying encounter, however, is reserved for those who linger too long outside. More than one witness has seen a black shadow take form on the 2nd floor porch. It stands motionless for a heartbeat before it scurries, fast and unnaturally, up the brick wall, disappearing onto the roof. What follows is silence, broken only by the creaking of the roof planks, as if something was moving. People who had witnessed this tell the story with fear in their eyes and the motion of rubbing goosebumps on their arms. Paranormal Crossroads research team arrived at the VanHorn mansion. The mansion loomed ahead like a sleeping giant awaiting to share its secrets. The night air was still and heavy as Christy, Andrea, and Joe pulled into the gravel drive of the VanHorn mansion. The structure stood before them in eerie silence, its weathered brick and tall windows reflecting slivers of moonlight. The mansion had seen centuries of life and death, and tonight it would see the glow of their flashlights. Joe lifted a black case from the van, its metal clasps gleaming under the porch light. "Then we'll see if she's willing to talk tonight," he said quietly. "Recorders ready, K2 meters charged, and the spirit box is calibrated." Inside, the mansion greeted them with the scent of freshly baked cake. Candlelight flickered along the old wallpaper, and shadows danced across the grand staircase. As soon as the Paranormal Crossroads team stepped into the mansion's grand foyer, the air grew heavy. The old staircase loomed above them, its banisters smooth from generations of hands. Christy, the medium, froze mid-step, her breath catching. "There's a child," she whispered, her eyes locked on the top of the staircase. "A boy. He's standing there watching us." The group fell silent, their flashlights pointed up the staircase. Christy's expression softened, her head tilting slightly as if listening to someone only she could hear. Then Melissa spoke up, her voice trembling just a bit. "That makes sense," she said. "A few days ago I saw something, a little boy peeking out from the upstairs bedroom. I thought maybe it was a shadow or my eyes playing tricks, but now..." Christy nodded slowly. "He's shy," she said, her tone gentle. "He's been here a long time. He doesn't mean harm. He just wants to be seen." The night had fallen heavy over the mansion, the kind of still darkness that seems to hold its breath. The Paranormal Crossroads research team gathered their equipment in the foyer. Voice recorders, K2 meters, and flashlights. Melissa stood quietly near the grand staircase, her voice low and uneasy. "This is where I saw him," she whispered. "A little boy, right at the top of the stairs. He was just standing there, watching." The team exchanged quick glances, the air shifting with a cold pulse that seemed to move through the woodwork of the house itself. The stairs creaked under each cautious step as the team ascended, their flashlights cutting through the dark. When they reached the landing, Andrea set down the recorder, Joe adjusted the camera, and Christy closed her eyes, sensing energy radiating from the end of the hallway. Andrea turned on 2 flashlights, setting one on the dresser and one on a high chair between the group and the doorway. "All right," Andrea said, her voice calm but steady. "If you're here with us, can you turn the flashlight on?" For a long moment, nothing happened. The team waited in silence. Then, the beam flickered to life. Everyone froze. "Can you turn it off?" Christy asked softly. The light blinked twice, then shut off completely. Joe raised his voice recorder with a soft, flicking red glow from the recorder. The spirit was talking. The EVP recorder picked up faint whispers, soft, almost childlike. Then came the unmistakable sound of small footsteps scurrying down the hall. Christy gasped, clutching her arm. "He's here," she whispered. "He's right here with us." The flashlight flickered rapidly, almost rhythmically, as if answering unseen questions. The floor down the hall started a crackling sound, as if it was crying out in protest. The EMF meters began to spike, and from the recorder came a faint voice, high-pitched and distant. The flashlight blinked one last time, steady, bright, then faded to darkness. As they departed the room, the old floorboards groaned beneath their feet. The session was over, but the feeling that they had not been alone lingered like cold breath on the back of their necks. The air on the second floor felt different that night, colder, heavier, charged with something unseen. Our flashlights barely pierced the darkness as we stepped toward the narrow stairway leading to the attic. As we reached the attic door, the temperature dropped sharply. The wood creaked beneath our boots, and each breath rose like smoke in the frigid air. Andrea went first, her K2 meter flickering green to orange as she moved. Christy followed, clutching her hands close to her chest. I brought up the rear, watching the narrow beam of my flashlight dance across the faded wallpaper and the long shadows it cast. The dust hung like fog, and the faint smell of soot and wood lingered. We could see our breath, even though the rest of the mansion wasn't nearly this cold. Then it happened. A single thump echoed from above us. We froze, another and another, footsteps. They crossed slowly, deliberately, from one side of the attic floor to the other. Andrea turned her head toward the sound, eyes wide. "They're above us," she whispered. The recorder in Joe's hand picked up the faint sound of dragging, like boots shifting on old boards. Then came the unmistakable sound of weight pressing on the roof beams. Step, step, step. We stared upward. It was as if something invisible had passed through the attic ceiling and now walked on the roof above our heads. And that's when memory struck. The story Melissa had told us just nights before. The shadow figure seen on the back upper porch, climbing up the brick of the mansion before vanishing onto the roof. A dark, crawling shape moving against the moonlight. The same roof that now groaned under unseen weight. Andrea whispered, "What is happening?" The footsteps stopped. The night fell silent again, except for the distant sigh of wind brushing against the old shutters. The night had settled into that deep, eerie quiet that only comes after hours of searching for something unseen. Paranormal crossroads. Research team stood in the dimly lit parlor of the old mansion. Joe placed his EMF meter into the gear case and exhaled. "I still can't believe what we caught up there. That loud thump on the roof." He looked at the others, his brow furrowed. "That's it for tonight." His voice was steady, but even he couldn't hide the tremor of excitement underneath. The team moved toward the door, their flashlights casting soft cones of light along the antique wallpaper and worn floorboards. Andrea paused, glancing once more toward the darkness of the VanHorn mansion. "Good night," she said softly. To Melissa, yes, but also perhaps to something unseen that lingered there. Melissa followed them out onto the porch, wrapping her sweater tight around her shoulders. "Drive safe," she said with a gentle smile. "And thank you. I think they were glad someone listened tonight." The team climbed into the van. Andrea sat by the window watching as the mansion and Melissa's silhouette framed in candlelight faded into the distance. Now, as I sit beneath the maple tree, pen in hand, I write these words into my haunted journal, trying to capture the feeling of that night. The VanHorn mansion gave us more than evidence. It gave us connection between worlds, between friends, between belief and experience. In conclusion, it was an amazing night, one that reminded me why we do this. Thank you, Andrea, for your steady, calm, investigative approach. Melissa, for your passion and courage for maintaining the VanHorn mansion, and Christy, our blue-eyed empath, for your rare gift of feeling what others cannot.